Imagine my surprise after 8 hours of a very restful sleep. Bitcoin once again in the same goddamn range. This is Bitcoin, baby. Anyways, I imagine there's going to be a lot of focus on traditional and Forex today, as that's where all the fun is being had. But for now, I guess we'll go over the current situation of Bitcoin. Looking at the Krown application over here, which can be found at app.krowntrader.net. What do we see? We see pretty much the same things everywhere. Don't have anything new to add about the open interest reads, of which we're still awesome between that 1.9.5 billion to 2.1.5 billion marker. Currently about 100 million below the upside resolution of that, while Bitcoin travels within the mid of this current range. Looking at the fear and greed index, popping up about 3 points from a 43 to a 46, and Bitcoin dominance more or less steady from yesterday to today as well. I think it's down about 0.25%. And the data tab, I suspect that we're probably not going to see anything here today because there's not really any major things going on. I mean, this is like quite literally watching paint dry right here. I do want to once again point out that FEMEX has some very bizarre fees. I wonder what that's all about. As far as all the other major exchanges go, they actually seem to be operating off of a slightly negative interest rate, funny rate, which is of interest here, mostly because that is, it seems like everyone else is the outlier except for these exchanges, of which these ones I believe matter most. BitMEX, well, maybe not Huobi, but FTX and BitMEX right there, I think handled most of the market share, even with BitMEX getting litigations against them. Binance pretty much inconsequential here. Anyways, it's at a not read, and same thing with OKX. So realistically, what is it actually? I mean, it's basically neutral as far as we're concerned. So with that in mind, let's go into the price action charts right here. I did forget to wish you the best, and the happiest, so I would like to do that right now. And with that in mind, with that in your mind, now let's look at the same goddamn chart that we've been looking at for the past like fucking month and a half. But yep, looking at this right here, what do we have? We have an even more mature symmetrical triangle going on right now. And resolution on this one is coming in, or at least an apex is coming in around the 16th of October, which is a little bit, is that like a week away from today? It's a week away from tomorrow, actually, so next Friday. So by next Friday, a direction very likely will be forced upon this. This is consistent with what we see on historical volatility percentile, especially referencing the 4-hour reads right here, of which we did get a slew of just single-digit reads for about a week, actually. And now, as Bitcoin does kind of edge towards the close, edge it out towards the apex of this, would suggest that we are pretty much on red alert for actual resolution here. And resolution would be a move outside of the range. In this case, I would consider our last prior low being set at 10,220. Yes, you might be using one that's a little bit higher than that in this region right here, but I think that all this price action right here is a lot more under pressure and a lot less obvious. And of course, to the upside, the obvious area is going to be actually 11,000. You could use 10.9 as well right here, which would be probably fine. Or 10.950, I should say, all the way up to 11,000. But technically speaking, I would err more on the side of neutrality, as long as we're kind of awesome between these two regions right here. I've been in the fucking Bitcoin space long enough, I suppose, to know that this thing can take its time for as much time as it wants. But as it stands right now, Bitcoin just kind of traveling a little more eastwards. And I think waiting for a mate, if you're familiar with that one. But it is very interesting right now, because we do see bifurcation in traditional markets with regards to Bitcoin price action. So we can check that out in a second. But for right now, looking at this, we also do see that volume signature is extremely mature here as well, tailing off from left to right, and getting towards that same sort of apex that we do see on price action. So we have multiple things going on right now. Just kind of list them all out. We have volume signature. We have formation coming into an apex. We have historical volatility percentile on the lower term time frames, of course, as well. And if we do go over to our secondary charts, we're going to actually see that the Bollinger Bands, which we actually measured yesterday, are in some of the lowest levels that we've seen in a very long time. Now, with it just being in those low levels, does that mean that it implies direction? No, it doesn't actually at all. What it does imply is that we're going to be seeing a pretty big splurt of volatility outside of this range, which you already fucking know. I mean, this is just par for the course for the course on Bitcoin, where essentially you get a move like this, a nice little $2,000 move to the downside in this case, and then you get to go sideways for about a month or two, or maybe even 3 if it's really going to be a significant one. And this is just very consistent with the way that Bitcoin plays out. So what we are looking for from here, though, is a big move. And so that means that the resolution points are the ones that I really want to be keeping an eye on. I fucking hate the way that symmetrical triangle looks, by the way. It looks wrong. looks bizarre. But yes, above 11,000, generally just going to be bullish once again. with a keen eye on short-term pivot points. That would be 11.5 right here, that would be 11.8 right here, and that would be about 12,000 all the way up here, somewhere a little bit above 12,000. All those would be essentially relevant, and realistically I'd just be generally bullish on Bitcoin. Macro would look pretty damn good at that point, of which I do think that it's important to reflect on the weekly once again. As long as we're kind of above that yellow 21 exponential moving average, you know, usually that is your Bitcoin Boolah-ish market going all the way back to the genesis. If we go over here to our long-term chart on Stamp, going all the way back to actually 2011, 2012 on this data, anytime that we're above the yellow 21 and it has a positive slope, well, there is your bull market essentially, and all of those tests down to it, both in this slew right here, this slew right here, this slew right here, and more recently this slew right here, have been phenomenal buys. Also works to the downside as well when you do get a negative slope and price action traded below it. Very simple stuff here. Of course, you know, you can make it more complicated than that, but at the end of the day, it has been working, and I don't really see any real reason to kind of fade something like this as long as Bitcoin is technically above it. Shouldn't be super long-term bearish. However, the thing is that you can get massive wicks to the downside, of which, you know, you might think that that's just a blind buy signal. No, what I'd really be defensive against is something like this, which actually, sorry, that was a measurement to the upside, but to the downside, we actually had about a 22% wick to the downside below the 21, which is very funny because if we actually do something similar like that to the downside, that actually might line up, or I'm curious if that would line up with any sort of downside targets. Well, 20% actually would put us in the mid 7,000s, which would be my ultimate downside target if Bitcoin is going to remain macro bullish. But now I'm getting way ahead of myself right now. Looking at the monthly right here, a lot of people have been talking about bearish divergence going on, and technically, yes, you are correct. Between this point and this point, you are 100% correct about that if you are identifying this as potential bearish divergence. The reason why I've not been putting much weight upon it is because over here on CME, it's a completely different chart. We never even had a higher high, as you can see. It's just been lower highs ever since the genesis actually. So looking at this right here, this would suggest that is maybe more of a formality, and if anything, we do have a bigger problem actually, as there is hidden bearish divergence here. So no matter which way that you cut it, it's kind of strange actually. Now I'm curious where a 10 simple would come in on this one, as that would typically be my target for a move like that, and that would actually be upper 9,000s to be fair right now. So it's not even that far down from where we are at currently. So we could play out that move and still remain macro fine. Even all the way down to the 21 would not be anything too crazy. And that's actually your low 9,000s, which is where I do believe Bitcoin will be headed if Bitcoin does break below 10,220, pivot to the downside, which we haven't even spoken about at all yet. It's all been rainbows and butterflies up until now. But I do think that this is important to reflect upon, mostly because, you know, long term, if we do look at this, even coming down to about 7,000-ish region, well, you do still have the higher lows on the monthly. Now, of course, CME still having lower highs is problematic, but at least you would have that higher low structure over here as well. So that is actually consistent between the two charts. And realistically, we're at the mercy of the market right now. You know, if it wants to have a big washout move to the downside and wash out a shit ton of logs before another try to the upside, I think that would be completely fine. I mean, even getting a backfill on last quarterly open would be what? Yeah, that's your low 9,000 number actually, right around about 91.35 region on GDAX. I need to take a little sippy of this water, man. I'm fucking thirsty right now. Oh, a little bit better. Get the cotton mouth out of my face. Don't even have fucking smoked, by the way. Stupid words. But yeah, looking at this right here, or actually looking at this right here, as it does have more price action history, we do see momentum oscillators on the higher term time frame still pointing north side, and I do believe that this does, you know, hold its weight. Obviously, a quarterly that's not going to have too much history, but a monthly is going to be decently well enough. So that does still matter to myself. You know, looking at RSI, which is rather constructive, and looking at monthly Joule, which, well, kind of actually had a little bit of a short-term resistance point right there, if anything. But still, you know, the long-term is mostly good. The problem is the macro is mostly good. But there's a really good question in the Discord yesterday. I think it was from Zip. Zip's a guy that I've learned to love. Actually, he's good. He's a good guy. I will say that. But he was asking, you know, what's the difference between long-term and macro? Well, I can actually define all these time frames, but I want to first say that there's no actual like fucking dictionary definition for these sorts of things, because everyone's going to have their own their own interpretations. But for myself, when I speak in these specific terms, you can understand it like this: short term is anything below a 4 hour, medium term is about 4 hour to about a 12 hour, long term is daily to weekly, macro is weekly plus. So just basically for Bitcoin, it's basically like a monthly, right? Or and you know, for traditional markets, that's going to be a monthly, quarterly essentially. So looking at this right here, we can spend some more time, I suppose. But if we do break to the downside, which I would really not even consider, like, are we on the same chart here? Yeah, we are on the same chart here. I would not consider to break to the downside unless we actually take out this low right here on the 24th of September. Could you make an advanced, an advanced move on that? You could, I guess. This would be your next higher low right here, right around about 10.5, but it doesn't look as steady to myself. This one's very well defined. This would be a damn good management point, and this is something that I'd actually be interested in. Both of these points right here are trades that I'm interested in. As long as Bitcoin's not trading above or below those regions, I'm not interested in trading this asset. Not to say that you can't make money trading it. It's just there's just a better opportunity elsewhere right now in the lower term timeframes, of which that is what I typically like to do or like to focus on, for the day-to-day activity. It's like a fucking video game, basically, in some very bad or poorly designed way. But there you go. We can make this nice little liquid zone right there between about 10.2 and the wick right around 10.1. And again, any sort of a closure below that level would be good enough for me to declare this one, to look for a downside resolution, and we can talk about targets on the top of that, or if we do just take out the 23rd of September low right here too, which is about 10,135 and a quarter. One of those two things happens, and I would be looking for a move essentially all the way down, at the very least to the 200 simple, which is currently hovering right around about 95.50-ish region. But realistically, I'd be looking for a move back down into the lower volume node in this region of about 91 to 9200-ish region. You can see the point of control right here. Bitcoin put in a massive base throughout the whole months of May, June, and July before breaking out from 9,000 all the way to 12,500. So I do like that area. There likely would be bounces along the way. Like I said, somewhere around 96.50 would be about right, which we can just mark off really quickly right here. And then again, right around here at about 94.50-ish region, but those would only be relevant for the short-term timeframes. I do believe that if Bitcoin breaks below 10.2, realistically, I would not be expecting like a potential reversal once again until it goes back down to 9,200. And here's the thing. Do you want to really fucking hate me right now? Well, you should, because I'm about to spill the beans. If Bitcoin breaks down here, comes all the way down to 9,000, guess what's going to happen after that? Guess what's going to fucking happen after that? Even if it does reverse, we get another month to maybe even 3 months of sideways bullshit action, probably even more boring than the shit that we're looking at right now. So there you go. I fucking hate this asset now, or at least sometimes I do. When it's doing massive moves like this, I absolutely love this asset. It's like God reincarnate. But when it's doing sideways bullshit like this, especially in like the last few echelons of it, it's just like, oh man, fuck me now. But yeah, this is the time where I typically go and trade Forex, which I've been having a lot more success in. It's been a lot better to me in the lower term timeframes, and I'm just waiting for the next setup in Bitcoin high term timeframes. So I want to be very, very clear with that. I do not have any skin in the game right now for Bitcoin as far as trading goes. I've only been trading Forex and nothing else really. But yeah, let me take this back on off. Okay, and there's several other things that would kind of align with a low $9,000 target. Obviously, a measure move off of this, what would be a symmetrical triangle, would be pointed down there as well. And I do think that it is worth mentioning that Mr. Buterol over here, where if I can find him, yeah, there we go. He's right here. This one does look a little bit, no, that's $. Jesus. This one does look a little more obviously bearish to me as well. It's putting in a descending triangle on the lows, which is a pattern of redistribution, or at least that's what it looks like right now. And I do still stick with my call yesterday of looking for a move back down to this region right here, somewhere right around about 325 to 330-ish region. And this would start to round out your descending triangle. Now, do I think that it would actually break below that level on the next test to the downside? Probably not, actually. I do think that it will bounce from this region once again, that being, let's just call it 325. But after that bounce, then game is on. 10-hour did just get a successful death cross right here between the green 55 and the purple 200. And let's just go throughout the history and see if this has had any sort of efficacy with this time frame. Just out of curiosity, again, very simple stuff right now, but I don't think that we need to do anything like too crazy. I think everything's really well defined, actually. But yeah, you get your golden cross right here, it leads you all the way up. You get your death cross right here. This would actually have been a pretty bad timer of a move, to be fair. It did say, well, I mean, you did get this move right here, I guess. Actually, that's about a 28% move to the downside off of this is actually not a good cross. Like if you were to look at like a fucking textbook definition of this would not be something that you really want to play. But even then, still does get a reactionary move of another 28% to the downside. This one to the upside right here, phenomenal. This one to the downside downside right here, pretty damn good over time. Better timer, yes, but still not a perfect signal. This one definitely a lot more perfect right here, and this one took you all the way down from about 650 to about 80 bucks. So there you go. Nice little 90% drop or something of that nature. So yeah, if this thing does start to come back down and actually break below, let's call it about where's our last closing low right here? It says about 323. I'm just gonna say 325 because it's easier to remember. But nice round 5-digit numbers. There you go. But yes, if that area does break, then I would be looking for a measure move to be initiated all the way back down to about 269, because that's just a good number. And I imagine that also lines up with something probably on the weekly. Yeah, it's actually the weekly 55 right here. Also around your last kind of spike high in what is this? February of 2020. So I would be looking for a move down there, and I'd be looking for a big bounce around here to potentially reversal. Likely going to do whatever Bitcoin does, but big bounce implied nonetheless around that region. So I do like the confluences within that. But here's the thing: Mr. Buterin is definitely erring more towards the side of the downside. It's erring on the side of the downside. It sounds like I'm saying the dark side or something, of which I actually just recently rewatched Star Wars. So it's all in my head. Maybe it's taken over. That movie is actually really fucking good. Like the original series, they're actually really, really good. The hero's journey, that story is always classic, man. And I never really used to really give a fuck about movies. I thought it was a waste of time. Like it's like it's fake, so it's a waste of time. But no, it's a story. Like those stories, they're real in a way. They're real in a way because they represent a series of stories that is consistent amongst all of humankind. I mean, we've been telling the same fucking hero story for like, I guess, I mean, the Bible's a fucking hero story, I think. So, I mean, do the math on that. What's like 2,000 years? I don't fucking know. Anyways, probably just going to dig myself into a hole by talking about something that I don't know all that much about. But I do know this: if you watch every fucking movie, basically every fucking movie is the same goddamn story. The hero's journey. Look it up. It's incredibly interesting, and it's something that I actually believe in myself. Anyways, okay, so looking at the daily right here, what else do we see? We do see that, Mr. Buterin is just more bearish overall in general. We do see a bearish cross between the 21 and 55 right here, and more importantly, it is starting to get some pretty aggressive downside slopes as they diverge away from each other, telling us that it is strengthening. And I'm curious if this one does seem to have a good history on Buterin as well, because if this one does have more oomph to the downside, so to speak, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to follow through as well. And it's just a little bit of an easier chart to read right now. And yes, this one does seem to get a little bit of a better timing segment. So this gives you not a golden cross, but it's just a bullish cross right here, getting you all the way from about 165 to, well, basically where we went up to about almost 20 bucks shy of 500 bucks. This one right here, a lot better timing on the coronavirus dump, but still not perfect, still not great. That one kind of came out of nowhere. What do we see right here? Beautiful one to the upside. What do we see where's this last one to the downside? Yeah, leads you all the way from about about 240 all the way down to 120, so about a 50% decrease right there. Not bad. This one to the upside, phenomenal. This one to the downside, all the way from 650 to that same $80 number as well. So very, very similar, slightly better timer, and more importantly, is more aggressive right now. This would be a much better cross if you are looking at this by the book. Looking at the 10-hour death cross, it's obviously a lot further away from price action, which does suggest that it's it's not going to be as playable. But the daily cross right there, although it is not as powerful as a death cross, does hold its own weight, as you can see, and does have its own efficacy as we just looked at. So again, I want to just be showing you stuff that I'm looking at, or just showing, or just looking at stuff in general and presenting it in hopefully as unbiased of a way that I can do it. I understand that I'm definitely not going to be perfect with that, but at the end of the day, like, the purpose of a channel like this is for you to make your own decisions, because I just believe that nothing really is going to come good from just blindly following shit. And well, I mean, that's one of the cool things that you can learn about trading, is that you basically get to be your own boss. You get to make the call for yourself. So take it as you will. But short term, I would be looking for this one to test back down to the downside. If I am giving my opinion, now separating my opinion from technical analysis deliberately, yes, I do believe that this one does come back down and test around here, but that does not imply that we're going to break it. And realistically, if this one does come back down down and test right around there. What do we expect for something like Bitcoin, or what should we be looking for something like Bitcoin? Well, we probably look for it to come back down to about 10,350 as well. I do believe yesterday we did say short term popping back up to about 10,650-ish region. We've already got that move. Now, what do you expect? Well, I mean, realistically, it seems to me that we're even like getting wedged in this area a little bit more aggressively than what you see even coming in from the September dump right there. This one would have an apex coming in. Actually, what is the 12th? 12th is Monday. Yeah, 12th is Monday. Very, 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 very mature, even in this small formation right here. And yes, you do get sub formations within greater formations. I'm not the biggest pattern trader though, so I'm probably not the best person to explain that. But what I can say is that is rather common. And in this case, we do have a symmetrical triangle within the context of basically a greater symmetrical triangle. However, if Bitcoin does pop back up towards about 10,950, that's going to be a symmetrical triangle within the context of an ascending triangle, and then you actually do have a pretty damn good bias there. But looking at Mr. Buterin, I would say that one's a lot more geared towards the downside. Bitcoin is, I'd be more on the neutral side with a slight downside twist here, mostly based off of major moving averages, but not good enough for me to trade at the current moment. Looking at the 2-day, did we have anything new here? Did we get a new 2-day dildo last night? I believe not. Yeah, we didn't get one last night. We get one tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. This chart doesn't really give me much. It doesn't really give me much at all, actually. Above 10.8, yes, I could maybe get short-term bullish once again. Below what, 10,550, we would have a new low on this, I suppose. But I mean, this is really cutting errors. I liked what I saw on the daily a little bit better, but I suppose technically speaking, if you do want to go by the book, new lows and would confirm a downtrend below about 10,500 and what is this area, about 30? Yeah, it looks like about 30. Yeah, 10,530 it looks like. So anywhere below there, and yeah, I'd be looking for another move back down to the low $10,000 number, and that's going to obviously have greater implications with pulling down below at the 23rd of September low right here, thus completing the downtrend on the daily as well, thus getting resolution on this whole formation, initiating moves much lower, like we spoke about, to about 9,000 or 9,000 base essentially. So that's what I'm looking at right now for Bitcoin. But I think now would be a good time to go check out traditional markets, because they're looking way different, way different actually. So we did say yesterday on NASDAQ be looking for a move back up to about 11,450. That was overshot. And what do I look for now? Well, actually, I basically look for the same thing now as I do for yesterday. I'd be looking for a little bit more, maybe a slight retest of about 11,550-ish region. But overall, I'd be looking for this one to come back down and test somewhere around 11,350 today, or what is this area? 11,350 to 11,375. Anywhere around here would be good to me. And I'd be looking for a bounce there as well, actually. So I wouldn't necessarily be calling like great upside or great downside from this region, but I would be looking for some short-term downside after a slight push to the upside, maybe in the early morning hours. Maybe we already got that. In fact, now that I go to very low term time frame, it looks like we do already have that. In fact, actually we do have a little bit of bearish divergence here forming. However, the caretaker RSI is not going to get it because I'm using more conservative settings right now. But in this case right here, this high and this high is technically making a very slightly lower high, not anything like too crazy to worry about. So you know what? I take back what I said earlier. I think that we've already kind of seen that try up to about 11,550-ish region. I think it got up to about 1120, close enough to me. And I'd be looking for this one to come back down somewhere around 11,350 to 11,355. Oh my God, 11,375. There we go. That's what I'm looking for, and probably bounce there. I'd expect to see something relatively similar on SPY futures as well. And yeah, I'd be basically saying the same thing. We did hit up to our what's called our motherfucker. My words are escaping me today. Short term, or maybe not short term, but more like medium term resistance right here, right around about 11,420. No. 3,420. Yeah, so we did get that test in the early morning hours. I'd be looking for this one to come back down short term, 3390-ish region. And I'm curious what a 4-hour looks like. This one actually did just get the golden cross on the 4-hour, so it's kind of hard to hate that. Short term, though, I do think it will come back down, but I would be looking for it to bounce somewhere around 3390-ish region, maybe 3380-ish region. So the thing is that while traditional markets kind of still errs towards the upside, it kind of difficult to be bearish on Bitcoin just because these things have been correlated on the macro for so significantly for so long. So if this thing is going to actually bust out of out of its current range above 3420-ish region, especially on a weekly closure, then what do you think about crypto? I mean, kind of have to be looking for it to hold its current lows at $10,000, and that's why I have this rule that as long as we don't actually break the structure for Bitcoin, and that again means below about 10,220 for the most obvious one, taking out the potentially higher low on a daily right now, or that's what you would be looking at, then that still is potential reversal zone. So it's one of those things. Laws are most likely looking for Bitcoin to just go sideways for another couple weeks and then probably give another try to the upside. That's likely what I would expect to happen on Bitcoin. If it is going to go to the upside, I'd actually expect more sideways here. If bear is going to take over, I'd imagine that it happens sooner rather than later, probably within this next week of price action is where I'd be looking towards. Looking at CMEs here, is there anything of note as well? The weekly does look a little bit different, looks a little more obviously bearish here too. What about a daily? Do we see anything of interest? I mean, daily is as even as it gets, I guess. Really hard to make much out of that. Daily Stokes are technically down right now, but I don't really see anything of too much note here. I mean, this is such a flat chart. I just don't think that this is all that worthy of, or it's not that it's not worthy. It's just not that interesting of a chart here as far as a trader goes. Same areas implied. However, the thing about CMEs is that it's actually more of an ascending triangle. Oh Jesus, man, God. Okay, let's just get rid of all of that. We can always redraw it anyways. But we have something more like this going on, which would be an ascending triangle, and that would be more on the bullish side. So even if you're looking at this and you are a Bula, you're probably still looking for another move back down to about 10,550, and that would be about 10,450 or 10,350 on spot price action, depending upon what the premium's looking like at that point. Okay, so now let's go check out some Forex here. You know what? I'm also considering this as well, and please do let me know in the comment section below if you'd be interested in this. But what I'm thinking of is I might do maybe even a live video in the morning, but just not answer any questions, just fucking gun through it kind of in the way that I do here, but only on crypto, and then maybe later in the day I'll do a 10-minute video on Forex. I'm curious if people would rather have it that way or just all in the same video. I'm actually genuinely curious if I can't get my fucking stutter out of my way, like goddamn Elmer Fudd. Anyways, let's go look at Aussie Dollar. Let's go through all the major pairs right here. What do we see? We do see short term is, what did we say yesterday? I forget what we said yesterday on this one. I think yesterday, actually, I was looking for some short-term down. I think that we got that, right around 0.71228 on that tick right there. Now getting picked up once again. What does it look like on a daily? It looks like on a daily that we do want to pop back up, test somewhere around about 0.7167 region, somewhere around the 21. Kind of a more similar chart to Bitcoin in a way, in the way that this current consolidation is going on right here. Actually, no, not really, now that I think about it. But a lot of similarities as far as momentum oscillators go. We do see daily Stokes hinting at some downside right here, and they will officially cross the downside with any sort of a close here or lower by end of day. Looking at daily RSI, what do we see? Sideways as sideways gets. Not really making much out of that. But it's a weekly that I feel a lot more strongly on. The long term, I'm very bearish on this, very, very bearish. So short term, did we already get a move to the upside and test around that region? Yeah, you could definitely make that. You could definitely make that that insinuation. But long term, I'd be looking for this one to come back down somewhere around 0.069. Actually, 69 cents, great number. Potentially longer, potentially more over more time. But this is your long term chart here. It's just a downtrend, is what it is. And this one just looks like another lower high to me. So, if you are playing the macro on something like this, well, you have a chance to get a position like this. You have a chance to get a position like this and like this, for your long-term pivots. What about Canadian dollar? Do we have anything of interest here? Kind of similar to Aussie dollar, just not as shitty, but still pretty shitty. But if you had to rank the shittiness of national currencies, Aussie dollar would be one of the worst. Canadian dollar would be pretty damn bad too, but not as bad, to be fair. Not as bad as your Australian counterparts. And same thing here too, essentially. Looking looks to me like we're putting in a lower high. We did get that move to the upside that we spoke about yesterday, I believe. Yeah, we did back to the tops of the range. I'd be looking for this one to come back down short term, actually. Back down somewhere around like 0.75 and a quarter. However, if it does break back above where we're looking at right now, especially this last little prior high right here is 75.49, I would be looking for it to run a little bit more to the upside, somewhere right around 75.57-ish region, around this little order block right here. Would look about right short term, but still, long term, it's kind of set, it looks like to me, and not looking like the picture of health and fitness on the on the monthly. On the daily, though, it does look like it actually wants to give another try to the upside. So you know what, I would did I say on the short-term time frames I would be looking for this one to come down? Yeah, I'd have to supersede that because the daily does take over here, and I'd be looking for a short-term move to the upside, actually around this horizontal, 0.7550 region, and I'd be looking for it to push back on there too. So I want to be very clear with the way that I relate that. As man, this chart is all sorts of weird. Jesus, man, fucking massive dump during coronavirus too. What about can we get euro dollars? Where's my euro dollar? Remember that this is not the chart that I like for it, or is it? Or no, that was Dixie. That's the one that I don't like for it. Short term looks like it wants to test up again, probably back up towards 1785 is where I'll be looking towards. What about low term time frames? Yeah, it's right around the 200 simple on the 4 hour as well. I'd be looking for another test back up there and probably a pushback from that region again too. I'm still, still have my eyes on the weekly, and the weekly is still under pressure here. So, I'm looking for a short term move to the upside here, but don't get that confused with like being bullish on this. I'm not bullish on this as it is. I still need to see a weekly closure above the same liquid zone that we've. Oh motherfucker! I don't have it on this chart. God damn it! We have to go to my other one over here. Ah man, it's actually on my other list right here. That's where it is. Okay, got it. All right, euro dollar, come back to daddy. There you are. I see you, sir. I see you. Yep, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, that same test on the 200x Benchmark average, also for the weekly. This is what I really want to keep a keen eye on. This long-term trend line coming in all the way from about April of 08. Pretty damn good. More importantly, this liquid zone that rests right above it, as long as we're below there, I would not be looking for any sort of macro reversal here. I still think that we're looking at a macro, or sorry, we're looking at a macro just continuation of the downtrend for the long term, going all the way back on over here. So I would be looking for this to likely push back down again. Short, very, 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 very short term bullish, but long term, still be bearish on it. So really, realistically, as long as below this region. What else do we want to look at? Let's go back to this one over here. And what do we got? We just looked at euro dollar. What about let's look at USD Swiss franc. Okay, alrighty. What are we looking at right here? Looks to me like it wants to come down a little bit more. It actually looks very similar to the Dixie chart in the short term, which is kind of strange. I guess it does make sense because Swiss franc does hold its value a little bit better than some of the other currencies. Yeah, very, very similar here on the weekly too. There goes my voice again. Jesus, man, my God. What am I losing my voice? I'm losing my hair. I'm losing my fucking voice. Jesus Christ, man, getting older sucks. I'd be looking for this one to likely come back down and test a little bit lower on the daily, but is it in a full breakdown? No, I'd be looking for it to bounce again if it does come back down to about 0.915 region, somewhere around here, anywhere around the 200 simple. I'd be looking for another bounce. So maybe short term, another, again, another down. I don't feel all that confident about that. What I do feel better about is the medium term, of which I'd be looking for this one to probably just trade sideways realistically. But there you go. Ranges are pretty damn set here, similar to all the other assets that we've been looking at. Right there's your lows, and to our upside right here, short term, these are your highs, 0.9185, or sorry, 0.91815, and above there, I would target an extension all the way back up to 0.92 right here. Anywhere around the 377 would look good to me, but again, a long day to go. So I just keep an eye on this one, especially with the weekly, because it's probably going to trade same thing as Dixie, which is going to just be easier to watch anyways. What about US dollar versus yen? Short term, are we looking boolah-ish still? Kind of yes, actually. Kind of yes. Let's see. What does it look like on a daily? Yeah, daily looks like it wants to try a little bit higher too. Long term though, this thing is a massive, disgusting downtrend, putting in a descending triangle on the lows here actually, or not necessarily on the lows, but after that major move to the downside from these highs in 2015. But this is kind of what I'm looking at right here, something like this. So it can still spend a lot of time within this region. Short term, does it come back down to 105 and in 3/4? I think that's rather likely actually, but I would be looking for it to fill out this space a little bit more before it actually does resolve itself. In this case, likely to the downside. So for now, short term probably does come back down a little bit more, but medium term, I'd really be looking for it to get picked up somewhere around here and then give another try to the upside and probably another failed rally. Just getting another lower high on the on the long term. Okay, there's one of the things that I wanted to check out too. Yeah, pound yen. I fucking love this thing. This thing is great. If you want to trade a shitcoin with the liquidity of the greatest forex monsters in the world, trade this thing. It's great. It's amazing. It's got all the opportunity in the short-term time frames. It moves like a fucking madman. Short-term, medium-term, I'd be looking for it to pop back up here. Almost around like a little bit under 138 region. Looks good to me. Very short-term, we do have resistance right around about 137.25. So if you are looking at it short-term, I would be looking for a little bit of a pullback right around the 200 simple moving average right there. Also around your last prior high. If it does pull back, somewhere around here would look about good to me. 136.5 region, and I'd be looking for it to get picked up again. And I remain medium-term bullish on this one as long as it's above, let's call it like 136 region. That looks fine. And with that in mind, let's go check out what Dixie looks like here. I had to add a new one because my old one got fucked. It looks like they took it off a TV, which is unfortunate because that was an actual updated read. So we'll have to go with this one here and hope for the best. Looking at this on the very short-term time frames, what do we see? We do see that downside more likely here, probably coming back down to about 93 spot 3844, somewhere around the 200 simple looks about right. Yeah, so short-term is bearish. Medium-term, looking at it daily, or sorry, more long-term, looking at it daily. I really don't have much to add here that I haven't said. If this one does want to come lower, it certainly can. I would not mind another retest on this long-term trend line right here. Really wouldn't. The thing with it is that I'd be looking for a big accumulation zone to be marked off right around here. If it were to, long-term, I'm massively bullish on this one, obviously. But that's 3 to 5 years down the road, and even like macro term, I'm massively bullish on it. And even looking at the monthly, I'm pretty damn bullish on this one too. But could it be that we come back down and grind out this 92.5 region right here? Yeah, that could definitely easily happen. But I'd still be looking at that as an opportunity, and I look at this as your next major higher low on the macro scale until that kind of condition is actually taken away. So for right now, very, very short term, probably bearish. Medium and long term, I don't really have a strong opinion on this. Daily would be geared towards the downside, or would it be geared towards the downside? We do see daily stocks are currently angled, and more importantly, daily RSI is giving us a little bit of a head and shoulders here too, which actually does matter a bit more on RSI. So yeah, probably would be looking for this one to come down a little bit lower. So if this one does come down lower, Bitcoin will have a chance to rally, and if Bitcoin does rally above those significant areas, well, then perhaps fun times once again. However, it looks to me like we're not really seeing what we'd expect to see on Bitcoin if that was going to fall true. But we do see, or what we would expect to see, is on like NASDAQ and SPY, which are looking like they want to go overall higher even after a short-term down right here. So again, take it as you will. I think that a lot of this is going to be clarified probably by the end of the week. I think today is Thursday. Indeed it is. Video is already 37 minutes long. What the fuck? and so looking at momentum oscillators here, it does still look like it wants to give another try. So I would be cognizant of that. Looking at gold, is there anything of note here as well? Yeah, coming back down, grinding out our. I believe that we did say that we were looking for another move back down to about 1870 yesterday. We've gotten that. What happens after that? This one's flat as a fucking doornail as well. Or doorknob as well. Short term, I'd be looking for this one to come back down though. Yeah, gold's likely coming back down to 1850-ish region or 1860-ish region right around here, and probably sets it up for another short-term bounce around that region. But yes, this does look like just a little bit of a throwback after some distribution at the top thus far. So it is interesting because we might be seeing a little bit of a differentiation go on right here. We might be seeing Bitcoin actually acting more like a commodity like gold or I guess silver as well, instead of a tech like NASDAQ or XLK, because those things look completely different actually right now. NASDAQ looks a lot more healthy, whereas Bitcoin looks neutral to slightly down. I think Mr. Budol is a lot more downside angled, and then obviously gold is downside angled here too. I'm curious that I'd guess that silver would be the same bullshit as well. Let's see. Yeah, silver. Actually, no. Silver doesn't look as bad in the short term as gold, funnily enough. But yeah, you know, if gold wants to come down, silver's going to come down too. I wouldn't put it past it. Looking at the weekly right here, what do we see? Sideways, kind of in its own range too. So in that way, you can kind of see that Bitcoin, gold, and silver are trading somewhat similarly with each other. But still, it's very different than what we see over here. So I do think that something else is going on right now, but I don't think that we have enough information on price action to really deal with it just yet. Or at least this, you know, that would be my signal to myself saying I need to see more. I need to see more proof before I actually start to get a bigger bias boner right here. But yeah, looking at Nasdaq, this one looks a lot better, I suppose. You know, overall. So fair enough. Anyways, let's go check out the secondary charts right here. I think that we've kind of already referenced them a little bit. Is there anything of note here from the Trollinger Band perspective? No, not really. Yes, we do have a negative slope on the 20 simple, and the 10 simple slightly negative sloped as well, but it's just, I mean, this is really like pulling hairs here. The range is what's going to matter the most. MACD not giving us too much either, is loosening its grip at the zero read, which typically does produce some counter trend pressure there too. So, you know, if I'm really looking for reasons to be bearish, I can find them. Just like reason to be bullish. But anytime that I've done this in my career, any fucking time that I've done this in my career, where I've like really had to squint my eyes and try to make what's it called excuses for price action, or really like just try to find something rather than just being obviously shown something by the price action, it's usually been not a good idea to follow those trades. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but more often than not they don't, and just that's usually just my signal that this is not the time to be putting risk on. Just looking quickly at the 4 hour here, is there anything of note? Looking at DMI, looking at MACD, not really. We're really splitting hairs right now, really fucking splitting hairs. What about a 12 hour? Same thing. I mean, really not giving. I mean, this is as flat as it fucking gets, man. That's as flat as it literally fucking gets. All of this is telling you what you already know. If you're an options trader, this would be one of the few times, or at least in my opinion, one of the few times to actually be buying premium. I fucking hate buying premium. I really dislike it. I strongly believe that that options were created to be sold, but in this case right here, you only get a few chances like this per year actually, and we're probably maybe like a week, maybe a week if it's going to be bearish, probably 2 weeks or more if it's going to be bullish resolution from this, and maybe I'll buy some spreads or something like that. Could be fine. I mean, do we see anything even on the DMI? No. It's like it's so far below right now. So yeah, I think that this is going to be one of those very unhelpful videos. I do apologize about that, but I do like to do these daily videos to keep my own routines in check. And well, I mean, what else are you going to do that? I mean, what else are you going to do with that? It's for me, it's more like a practice at this point, or like the morning rituals as far as I see them. So hope that this was, in some way helpful. But the main message that I have for today, as far as it goes with cryptos, is no, I really don't have any major bias. This is kind of my signal to just not trade. If I'm looking at oh my God, my 3090 just came in. I think it did. Oh no, it didn't. Oh motherfucker. Well, shit. God damn it. I thought I saw it out of the corner of my eyes right there. But yeah, as far as this goes, I would hope that my main message today is, as far as traditional markets go, I'd actually be looking for a little bit of a pullback here, but I do believe that's going to get picked up somewhere around the 10 or 21 as far as NASDAQ goes, and pretty much the same thing for actually SPY would be much higher, somewhere right around about 3390-ish region. And then I want to come back tomorrow and see that. So those I do feel well about. As far as cryptos go, Buterol is more angled to the downside. It does look short-term bearish. Bitcoin probably does follow through with that as well. But again, I just don't feel that strongly about that right now. I want to see the range broken at this point. Everything's so mature. And for Forex, there were some interesting stuff going on there too. But other than that, man, I think that this is the time for me to wish you the best, and the happiest. Take care, everyone, and until next time.